am right now on a plane on my way to Phoenix from LA, but I got a couple emails today, and I wanted to address some issues. One of the issues was, do I believe in tithings or not? And I think tithings are very important. I mean, there's a law to God that says that if you give, that He will give back. I think our current churches today are kind of taking that concept and not quite accurately depicting it the way it needs to be depicted. For example, if I have $10 in my pocket and the guy over here is in need, then that $10 I give to him as a tithing from me. So the way we're giving our money is not necessarily the only way it should be given, in the sense of to our traditional churches and ministries, especially in lieu of so many churches and so many scandals and where are they spending their money. But again, I do believe in tithing. Churches are important because there's a couple of things. I mean, the first path to really finding Christ within your life, you have to become humble. And the only way you can be held humble in humility is to be held accountable. And with accountability, my actions are actually held accountable, so that way I don't fall back to the way I was. But the only way you can really be held accountable is if you're in community. So community is important because you're with believers. And believe me, the world's tough enough as it is out there to be doing this on your own. So being in community is really important, especially with believers who believe in the first 10 words of the Bible. Check that out. If you don't, then we got to work on that. Believing in the Bible and really holding each other accountable to the way that Christ really wants us to live our life. So through community, you can be held accountable. Through humility. So churches are important. Tithing is important because God will overflow us with abundance based on how we give. The other thing that was asked was evangelism, if I was against that. Absolutely not. I'm all about going out and spreading the word, and sometimes the only way to really do that is through organized ministry. But on the same note, if you feel compelled to go out there and share your faith with somebody, then do it. That's evangelism. I mean, that's what this is all about. But remember, it's important not to quote-unquote promote this where you're trying to convince somebody on the spot to accept this. Rather, it's them seeing something with you as you speak to them that they're attracted to this and say, I want that light that that person has within me. So, very important evangelism. So, I'm definitely for it. As I was driving to the airport today, they're building like crazy everywhere. I mean, somehow, dollar's not worth anything, but we're building. But, theoretically, our society could continue to survive with no money. What do you mean by that? Well, think about bartering and what have you. If the United States was to move into a position of protectionism, where we protect our assets, buy American for American, unlike a lot of the big three automotives that are driving foreign cars. But if we move to protectionism, we could actually protect what we have in this nation. But this current administration is just kind of like, well, we're going to make sure protectionism doesn't happen. So we're going to create stronger unions with Asia, stronger unions with Europe. But on the same note, that's kind of creating this new world order that we know isn't the right way. And what we really need to do is say, what's wrong with protectionism? Why can't we shut our borders? Last time I checked, there's a lot of drug cartels running down in Mexico. Just big four of them. $15 billion a year is spent on drug trafficking. It goes into Mexico. The United States has barely allocated $1 billion to fight the war on terror. That's right over our borders. So I'm not saying shut the borders and shut everything down, because this country is based on immigration. But on the same note, we need to protect our own. And even if the dollar were worth nothing, what are you going to do? Sit around and do nothing? What are you going to do? Evict us? No, you're going to go to work. You're going to work in a manufacturing plant. You're going to work in a hospital. You're going to provide services, but you should be rewarded for those services. And if I was a farmer, what am I going to sit around and not farm? I will provide my produce to you if I get a product back to me. Gas, whatever. So we can get through this. It's not all doom and gloom, but it's the way we think, because everything in life first comes through a thought. So I really want us to really think about that. But the cool thing about God is that everything we do is through His eyes for us. And when you really look at the book of Job, Job had this hedge around him, and this is from a friend that shared this in an email. But how could Job learn and grow if he really didn't have free will? And that's what free will is about, is to grow us. And you're a reflection of me. We are all one through love. So we really have to come from a position of love here, to love one another. So the only way we're going to really bring people to this way of life is to show a positive side of it, versus running around and being all judgmental and saying, oh, you're going to go to hell and you're going to go to hell. What's that going to accomplish? It's not really going to accomplish much. And I really want us to look at that. What can I do to be a less judgmental person? What can I do to help you? And what can I do to be positive? I mean, how can I create positive things in my life if I'm constantly thinking negative? And that's what people don't realize, is what we think is what we create and what we attract into our lives. If you have a system that's working really well with a bunch of people like-minded, and you bring one person into the loop and they're out of balance, well, guess what? That out of balance is going to create unbalance in the entire process of the wheel. So what are we doing to bring more positive people into our lives? What are we doing to be less judgmental? But what are we doing to speak out? Where are we in our organization? I saw a poster, protest the war. The war is great, but what are we going to do to protest what's currently going on with the way our government's being ran? Again, I'm not against the federal government. I'm against less governing of federal government to more of a state level, but better yet, more of a local level. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, we survived on local economies. It wasn't until the telegraph and the steam liners and the train came in that we started getting products from other parts of the world. And when we started getting it from other parts of the world, we started outsourcing our local economies. But that's what we got to bring back here. This is a movement of nonprofits. This is a movement of civil service. This is a movement of what can I do to better myself and my family, but most importantly, what am I going to do as a believer in Jesus Christ? Not as necessarily a Christian, but a believer in Jesus Christ. One path to God, and that's through Christ. If it isn't that one path through Christ, you know what? His whole life was meaningless. But yet every New Age movement, wow, Christ's right in the center of this. So we really need to ask ourselves, what are we doing to be better people where Christ can actually live within us? But most important, what are we going to do on our local communities to come together? And that's the movement. And that's why we got to share this message. Reviving Common Sense is all about that. If you haven't checked out Jesus and My Friend, check it out. I mean, this is something that I believe so firmly in, that I'm going to go to every part of the world, God will it be, to spread this message to you and I. But I want to know your input. What should I be talking about? The emails keep coming in, and I love it. I love the content that you're giving me. It's giving me new life. But I want you and your voice to be heard in the same ways that I'm doing this. And once the world sees that collectively we're sharing our testimonies and our lives, the world will slowly change. Look at what one man did with 12 disciples. And they weren't the smartest men, mind you. But it's surrendering to the life of Christ, where Christ lives within us. So with that said, I'm going to continue on this flight before I hear an announcement overhead. But with this, I keep the faith, brothers and sisters. We can do this. I love the fact that we're sharing, that this is growing. And I have faith. I have faith in a brighter future. I have a faith that we're gonna get through this. And I just don't want to sit by thinking some sort of rapture is gonna happen. Don't get me wrong. If the rapture happens, I'm gonna be a happy camper. But if not, what are we gonna do? We're not organized the way we need to be, and we need to be more on the beats, on the streets, grassrooting this thing, and more people like you need to rise up to be the future leaders of what we know is right. And the youth is our future. The youth is our future. They can accomplish anything. So with that said, I hope these were inspirations for today. I'm looking forward to broadcasting from Phoenix for tomorrow. But say some simple prayers. Prayer works. And prayer doesn't have to be just in the evening or night. It can be everything that you do. Thank you, God, for this computer. Thank you for this camera. Thank you for the ability of putting $10 in my pocket. Thank you for giving me this flight to take me so I have a better life. That's where it starts. So with that said, this is Will and Michael, over and out.